So a while ago, I came across a product that I absolutely adored, and it's called the Genki Shadowcast. It was really marketed as a budget capture card option, and I did a video on it back when I first got it, and I was just super impressed with the whole package. Not only was it cheap, but it was reliable and it did everything it said on the box. Best thing is it was plug and play, so that you could just plug it in and Windows would detect it. It would automatically capture whatever you needed to do. The only drawback I kind of found from it, well, there was two really. One was that it only had one HDMI out, so you could only put it to the computer. But people on my last video pointed out you could buy a HDMI splitter and you would get exactly the same thing. You would be able to send it from your device to your computer, or from your device to your monitor, your TV, whatever it is you're using to capture. The other thing was that it was limited in what it could output at. Bear in mind that this is still a very cheap product, but it could take input up to 4K 30 frames a second, but only output up to 1080p at 60 frames a second, which is still reasonable. It's still good. What I was particularly loving about it was that it had the ability to be used as a cam link. Honestly, for the price it is compared to other cam link devices that are out there, particularly the Elgato one. So for reference, I looked up a bit of research for this video at a local computer shop here in Perth called PLE. The Elgato cam link was retailing for $200. This one, when I bought it, it was $40 US plus $10 for shipping. So I think I paid about $70 all up for it, including shipping. And it is still available on their website, which is available for $30 US, which with current exchange rates is about $45. So it's still a very cheap option if you're looking for a cheap cam link option, or even a cheap game capture option. Like, because not everybody wants the 4K option, and sometimes 1080p is fine. And it still does 60 frames a second as well. So it's a decent amount of ability there in this little device. What caught my eye recently, though, was that Genki, who make these products, had a Kickstarter for a new batch of stuff. Was three products in the Kickstarter that I ended up backing. They had different levels, but I went, you know what? I want two of these anyway. I may as well get the third one, even though I don't think I'm going to use it. So there is a Shadowcast 2, an updated version of the device that I loved, the Shadowcast 2 Pro, which is just a bigger, beefier model of the Shadowcast 2, and something called the COVID Dock 2, which is an interesting little bit, and I'm not sure I'm going to use it, but it definitely looks interesting, and I want to at least give it a chance. It's marketed as a replacement for your Switch dock, but can also do other USB-C DisplayPort devices. I'm going to give that a little bit of a go later. I might leave that one till last. I've got some ideas. I want to have a play with it to see how it goes. Let's talk Shadowcast 2. So I haven't unopened it yet, so we're going to do a live unboxing right here. Look, I've got my Leatherman out here. Not for this. I was actually using it as a very expensive counterweight for a webcam. Let's open it up and see what we can see in this box. It's got a nice little open treasure label right there. So these never work properly for me. Never, ever. And now I've just ruined a box. Anyway, so Genki Shadowcast. We've got a bit of information about how you can get in contact with them, and the Shadowcast itself. So right off the bat, looks very much like the other Shadowcast, looking like the same form factor as the other one. But what else have we got in the box here? Oh, it's actually a separate box. All right, and in this box, we've got a DisplayPort 4K USB-C cable, some instructions. Who reads instructions? We just plug. And a little QR code thingy. Scan this QR code to leave us a review. That's all right. This video is a review. So I'm just going to have a quick scan of the instructions. It doesn't actually tell us much. And in fact, it is really only 2 pages there. We've got our Shadowcast 2 and the DisplayPort 4K USB-C cable. I don't like that I can't really box this up again, because I like keeping the boxes. I'm not going to be able to do that with this one, which is a little annoying. I should probably get a device to plug this into so I can test it. So like the other Genki Shadowcast product, this is a one thing only, but so you have to plug this HDMI port into the HDMI output of whatever you want to plug it into, say your Switch dock or whatever thing you're trying to capture, whether it be a gaming console or whatever else has got a HDMI output. And then the USB-C will go to your computer. Now, the old Shadowcast could be a USB-C to USB-A connector. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to let me do USB-C to USB-A. Having a look at the instructions and a little bit of the promotional material, it kind of gets the feeling that it should be USB-C to USB-C. My computer that I use for streaming doesn't have a USB-C port, so I'm going to be trying the USB-C to USB-A connection. And it does say that it's an output connection, a USB-C 3.2. We'll grab my switch over, I think, and we'll have a look at that and test it, see how this goes. So I've got my switch. It's got a fan on it as well. Just for the sake of this, let's remove the fan, just so we can see what's going on. The Genki Shadowcast plugs in like that. Then we get the USB-C. So I currently have a USB-C to USB-A cable plugged into my Elgato HD60S, which I'm currently using to capture my HDMI stuff. So I'm going to unplug that and plug it into the Shadowcast. All right, computer setting up Shadowcast 2. All right, and so I'm capturing that very well. There is sound coming through, which is nice. Like I said, the old Shadowcast was plug and play. So the only thing with this is that you can't plug it into a TV and monitor while capturing at the same time. You'll need to get that HDMI splitter, which for what this device is fine. I bought this in a Kickstarter pack with 2 other things, so I'm not 100% sure of what the individual price of this is, but on their website at the moment, it's listed for $49.99 US dollars, which is about $75 Australian, which is still, if you're looking for something like a Cam Link, this is still much better value than the Elgato product. The Shadowcast 2 can take an input from 4K 60 frames a second or 1080p 60 frames a second, and output to 1440 30 frames a second or 1080p 60 frames a second. Still not quite there as far as game capture goes, but as a budget option, it is much, much better. I think when I bought my HD60S, which I don't think you can actually get anymore, it was about $300 odd Australian. So it's was super expensive compared to the Shadowcast. I'm going to compare this to Elgato stuff a lot because Elgato's the gold standard. You know, it does stuff really well. And there's 2 Elgato products on the market at the moment. There's the HD60X, which does 4K 60 frames a second pass through and captures at 1440p 60 frames a second and 1080p 60 frames a second. So that's still pretty good, but it's a lot more expensive than what this is. And honestly, this is comparable to that. There's stuff that the Elgato products have built in that make it a lot nicer, but in terms of just raw input and output, this is good. This is so good. It's just another product to show that you don't need to spend a lot on your streaming setup to get it working. Definitely consider something like this if you're starting off streaming and you don't want to buy a heap of stuff to go with it. The Shadowcast 2, it definitely still works. It works amazingly. Like I said, I've just plugged it in and it's working straight up. So that's the Shadowcast 2. We're going to move on and have a look at the Shadowcast 2 Pro, which I'm actually legit excited about. It's an upgrade to the Shadowcast products in that it has a HDMI output on it as well, but it has a whole heap of bunch of other stuff that goes with it. The Shadowcast 2 Pro can take input up to 4K 60 frames per second or 1080p 60 frames a second through HDMI 2. It also does 4K pass-through to whatever you're using, which is absolutely amazing, and will output to your computer in 4K 60 frames a second, 1440, 140 frames a second, or 1080p 240 frames a second. So you're getting a lot more quality in there. Recording at those lower resolutions, you can get a lot more frames in there if you're doing like slow motion stuff, and it'll make that stuff look better. But what was impressive for me as well is that it does stuff like HDR10 pass-through and variable refresh rate too. So that's absolutely amazing in something like this. I will quickly mention the price. So this one is $159.99 US, which is approximately, with current exchange rates, $240 Australian. It's starting to get into the range of that HD60X price range. I looked it up locally here in Perth, WA, and it was about $279. So it's not far off that price. But what this does, comparable to the HD60X, is that it does that 4K capture. It does that pass-through of the HDR10 and the variable refresh rate, which is an amazing feat of technology for a device like this. So let's open it up. Once again, we've got the open treasure one. I like the open treasure bit. I don't like these cardboard tear-outs. I can't close the box now. All right, let's have a look at what it looks like. Similar packaging to the Shadowcast 2, but let's have a bit of a look. So we've got the device here itself. So the front, nothing really on the front. Pretty bare bones standard there. And as we turn it around, we can see a couple of headphone jack holes, 3.5mm headphone jack, an input HDMI, an output HDMI, and the USB-C port that goes to the computer. It outputs to HDMI as well, so you get rid of that need for the HDMI splitter. We've got another 4K display port USB-C cable, and looks to be a HDMI cable as well. Instruction book again, looks very standard, so yeah, it's just a couple of pages repeated in a whole heap of different languages. Let's give this a test to see how easy it is to set up with the Switch, because I think that's the key thing here. I want a device that's easy to set up and just run with. So let's bring the Switch back out. So this one, we are going to need the HDMI cable. We got that there, and then we'll plug this into the input. If I can HDMI in, right. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be. So we'll put that in there. We'll take our USB-C cable that we had from the last one, put that in there. And then we'll turn on the Switch and let it get setting up in Windows. We want the output. So I'm going to rip the HDMI off my HD60S and plug it into the pass-through. It's too fat. HDMI cable's got too much around the outside there. All right, so we've got another HDMI cable that hopefully will fit in. There we go. So we've plugged that in. Going to switch over my monitor. So the Shadowcast 2 doesn't seem to be capturing anything. So we've got it all plugged into the Switch. It's sending a signal, but it's sending me to an FAQ page. So this, I was a little bit concerned that this might happen because I thought that this might be a USB-C to USB-C thing. If that's the case, what can I do? Give me 2 seconds. So I think I've got a potential solution, but it's going to take a little bit of jury rigging. So bear with me while I get this all sorted out. What I was trying to do was, my gaming computer has a USB-C input on it. So I've plugged it in hoping that it would be the USB-C thing that was going on. But unfortunately, it's still not working. So I'm going to do what I never thought I would do in my life, and that is read the instructions. Connect USB cable to computer, connect TV or monitor to pass-through, yep. Connect HDMI of gaming console to, yep, done that. That's it. So it should just work. So it's detecting that it's there. Oh, hang on. My Switch was partially out of its dock. Oh my God. I've got it working on my gaming computer. And I think the problem was that the Switch was slightly out of the dock, so it wasn't picking it up. So I'm going to put it back onto my streaming computer to see if it will work with the USB-C to USB-A 3 point whatever converter. And there we go. It does work with the USB-C to USB-A cable. I just wasn't doing it right. So that was it should have been easy, but I made it difficult. So I've just spent the last, probably longer than I care to admit, just trying to faff about, get that working. But it is working now. It's all connected up. We've got the Shadowcast Pro plug and play, absolutely easy to set up as long as you do it right. And look, honestly, with what it can output and what it does with pass-through, I can see this replacing my HD60S. One thing I still have to test though is making sure that it does the pass-through to the monitor. So there we have it. We have the capturing on our computer for streaming purposes, and we also have the pass-through to the monitor that I'm using. So that is absolutely amazing. Absolutely love that. So easy to do. Plug and play, ridiculously easy. So that is the Shadowcast Pro 2. It's definitely a contender there, I believe. Like, just with how easy it was and that it does the pass-through stuff. Obviously, I haven't tested it with something that actually does 4K to see if the 4K actually goes through, but just with how easy that was, and I'm going to believe that it says on the box that it does what it does, just quietly there. It's such an easy device to set up, and getting that pass-through with the 4K and the HDR10 and the variable refresh rate, that is amazing. So you'll be able to capture games in better fidelity. Considering that the HD60X can only capture at 1440p with 60 frames a second, or 1080p at 60 frames a second, that's really good. And the only other comparable product that Elgato really has is the 4K 60 PCI card. That's one that you actually physically have to put on the motherboard of your computer, which does 4K 60 frames a second capture. But this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. It works. It's so easy, and it's a relatively cheap product. It's definitely one that I can see myself using. And like I said, it's probably going to replace my HD60S now. That's how good it is. So there's one more bit of tech in this bundle that I want to have a quick talk about. And it's one that I'm curious about because it seems like a very interesting device, and I'm not quite sure how to take it. So this is the Covert Dock 2. It's marketed as a compact, lightweight replacement for your Switch docking station, which is an interesting idea. Like, for someone that mainly keeps my Switch in its docked form and plays it on TV, I'm not sure how much use this is going to be. But then I saw in the promotional material for it that it's a dock for USB-C DisplayPort devices such as Switch, Steam Deck, and USB-C phones. That caught my eye. If this is a way that I can capture not only the Steam Deck, but also a way to capture my phone, that could be a game changer. We are going to open it up and have a look at what's in the box, like we've done with everything else. Once again, the silly cardboard rip-away part. Why can't you just give me a nice little thing that opens and closes? At least this box feels a little bit more contained, where the other ones just like really open up. So this is a really cool thing. It does, because it's designed to be compact and travel. It comes with all the different power adapters. And then we've also got the device itself. It's very, very compact. And just on the back there, you've got the USB-C to plug in whatever device you're trying to use. You've got a USB-A port for charging accessories, so like your controllers and whatnot, and a HDMI out. So this can put your Steam Deck or your Switch onto your TV. And as you can see, like I say, it's very compact. So replacing that whole big Switch dock with something that's basically the size of the charger. It's smaller than the Switch charger. That's how small this is. So let's pop on the Australian charger and plugs in like that. I'm going to need a power cable. Let's just have a look at what else is in the box first. Open it up, and we've got another USB-C DisplayPort 4K cable. A little bit of instructions. It's very simple. That's one of the great things about this stuff, is that it's plug and play. It is just so simple to use. So we're going to put that back in there. We've got our power. Slide it into there. That was easy. We're going to take our USB-C cable, plug it in here. Now we're going to undock the Switch and plug it into here. So you can see the Switch screen is currently lit up. We plug that in. It's still lit up. I'm going to be honest, not what I was expecting. I was expecting the screen to go blank like it does when it's in the dock. I'm going to borrow my Shadowcast 2 just to get an idea of how this is. So we're going to plug that into the HDMI out, and we're going to get our USB-C cable to connect it to my streaming computer. So now we've done that, okay, see, so now that it's plugged into that, the screen's gone blank. So because I'm using it for the Shadowcast 2, which does lower resolutions than the Shadowcast 2 Pro, it's a little bit smaller on the screen. But yeah, straight up, working. But what I'm here for now is to see how I go with my phone. And so let's plug in my phone. It's charging. Samsung Dex. We'll start. And we've got Samsung Dex coming up on... Oh, wow. It's not directly capturing my phone, but it's basically turned it into a mini Android computer that I can use this as a touchpad. What if I launch an app? Say, what if I launch Marvel Snap? I was kind of hoping that would launch it, but that's not happening. The short answer is that yes, it is capturing stuff. let's just boot up a game. So when you boot up the game, it just runs like it's on a computer screen, which, I mean, it's okay. It is a way that I can capture stuff on my phone. It's not very intuitive. And God forbid if I'm playing Marvel Snap and I need to click and drag the cards around. It's interesting. I think I'm going to have to have a bit of a play with this more, like when it's on a big screen so I can actually see what's going on, because that, as it stands right now, it's very hard for me to see what's going on. But it can kind of capture your phone. I would more wish it did kind of like a duplicate of the phone, but that might be a setting in Samsung Dex that I can change to do it. That's pretty bloody cool. So that's pretty much all those Genki products I've just got. The COVID dock is $60 US, which is about $90 Australian. And honestly, for a chance to capture my USB-C DisplayPort devices like my phone, that's actually pretty cool. It might be of interest to people that want to kind of ditch their Switch dock as well, because it's handy for when you travel. For me, I like having a Switch in the dock, so I don't think it's going to replace that for me. Combined with the Shadowcast, it's a very simple and effective way to capture whatever. And it's anything with a USB-C port pretty much. It's so cool. I'm actually liking this a lot better than I thought I would like it. So I'm going to have to find a way. I'm going to play with it a little bit more to see if I can get it working how I want it. Because if I can, this might be a viable way to capture some mobile games. That's all of the Genki Shadowcast products that I got. So we got the Shadowcast 2, the Shadowcast 2 Pro, which I'm very much liking, and I think it's going to be an upgrade to my Elgato HD60S that I've currently got, and the Covert dock. 3 top-notch products, 3 very easy products to use as well. I think that's the key when you're buying new tech. You just want it to work. You don't want to have to faff about with it to make sure that it works. Being able to just plug it in and have it work is amazing. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all for being here, and we'll see you on the next video.